Are you having trouble finding a green screen YouTube creator studio equipment set up at home? If so, you're in the right place. I'm going to guide you through 15 tools to crush it with video. Coming up. Hello, I'm Christopher Ciotum, your guide to your big trip to Japan. I'm on a mission to help 10,000 people plan your adventurous, meaningful trip to Japan, enjoy a journey of a lifetime, and thrive as a seasoned world traveler. So if you're new here, subscribe to Big Trip to Japan. Probably the most common questions that YouTube creators get asked in any subject is what kind of equipment they are using, with what type of camera they are shooting with as the number one question. I do freelance movie and video production professionally, so almost everything I'm using for YouTube is overkill, as I've seen people crush it with over 1 million views of video shooting and editing just with their iPhone. But nonetheless, these are the 15 tools I use to crush it in my green screen YouTube creator studio equipment setup at home. I'm shooting in my home studio in front of the green screen with a Canon Cinema EOS C300 EF lens mount. I'm familiar shooting with several different brands, but I've made a few movies with Canon camcorders and DSLR cameras, and as they like to say at Walt Disney Studios, you dance with the one you came with. I have a bag of lenses, but in the studio right now, I'm just alternating between two D-Click prime lenses, which I focus with manually. For my medium to wide shots of myself on screen, I'm using a Rokinon 20mm t1.9 Cine DS for Canon EF lens mount. For my medium close to close-up shots in the studio of myself on camera, I'm using a Rokinon Cine DS 35mm t1.5 for Canon EF lens mount. I finally made the switch to LED and am lighting with two Tolifo CRI 95 Plus 5600K 64-watt dimmable 1520 LED lights. They are a little on the dim side, but with shooting on a DSL style super 35mm camera with very fast T-stop prime lenses, getting the shot bright enough is not an issue. Sometimes LED lights can cast a grid pattern as well as harsh light, so I am using two ILED softbox diffusers for 1024 LED video panel lights with my set of Tolifo LED lights. For green screen, I'm shooting in front of a PBL Chromakey green screen set. When it comes to sound, I break tradition. Most people will go after a shotgun on a boom or even a radio or voiceover style mic if you were sitting at your desk. Whether I'm shooting a movie, an interview, or a YouTube episode, I prefer to record dialogue on lavalier microphones. I do run a second shotgun microphone on a boom or on camera, but in my studio, it produces too much echo, so it's only a backup microphone. My current lavalier system is a Sennheiser EW100 ENG G3 wireless system. It's been a reliable workhorse for me. I actually have a few different tripods. The one I'm using in the studio I originally acquired to support my crane, dolly, and tracks. It's a Manfrotto 504 HD head with 546 tripod legs. It's definitely on the heavier side, but has super smooth pans and tilts. It's not the tripod I bring in the field anymore unless I'm putting extremely heavy gear on top of the sticks. I teach screenwriting to graduate students, and most of my episodes are actually scripted, except for some of my product reviews. I'm using an Apple iPad Air 2 128GB with a teleprompter. My teleprompter is a very small, light, and compact one-take-only pad prompter. I have the Rails version, but since my Rails cage system is on the cheaper side, I find it much easier to position the teleprompter properly in front of the lens by placing it on an ordinary light stand. Both the Rails and non-Rails version of the one-take-only pad prompter have a standard-sized threaded hole to screw it on top of a light stand. Obviously, I wear glasses, and my vision is not the best. My Canon C300 has a flip-out screen that I do use to monitor myself, mostly to center myself when the red dot illuminates on screen during recording. However, I'm also using a Marshall Electronics MLCD 7HD MIBCE 6 monitor to create a bigger image of me to monitor myself in live focus. I also use this when I'm in the field with my C300, and it helps out immensely with pulling focus live, as I never autofocus. I'm editing on an Apple 15-inch MacBook Pro Retina 2.8 GHz Intel Core i7 quad-core with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Macs have been a friend of mine for many years. They pose limited problems, and unless I'm choosing to do a clean install on an OS X update, I never need to wipe the drive and do a reinstall just to get the computer working again. Getting as much RAM and speed as possible exponentially cuts down on rendering and output time when you get into layering and graphics. It takes me about 1 minute of rendering output time for every on-screen minute of production. Again, my eyes, so instead of editing on my 15-inch MacBook Pro screen, which I do in the rarest of scenarios, I'm using a Samsung 28-inch 4K UHD LED monitor. And although I'm not shooting 4K yet, I can make a lot of my timeline and layers visible when editing, which makes editing easier and faster. After the death of the classic Final Cut Pro 7, being an independent, instead of upgrading to Avid, I went along with other independents and switched to Adobe Premiere Creative Cloud. It's about 78% similar to the old FCP platform, and took about 2 weeks of working full-time on projects before I could really function smoothly on the most common editing tools when transitioning to Premiere. Last but not least, I'm using two SanDisk Extreme 128GB CompactFlash memory cards, UDMA 7, with speeds up to 120 megabytes in my EOS C300. Fast cards provide rare hiccups, and SanDisk is very reliable. Question of the day: which piece of equipment do you need to upgrade in your YouTube studio? Post your responses in the comments below. Check out reviews of my complete YouTube Creator Studio above or in the links in the description below. Watch another great video about how to create a travel blogger show here or in the description below. Watch another video from Big Trip to Japan here. Now is the time to be something greater.